All right, hey, Mike McGroarty. First of all, thank you for purchasing this DVD. This is probably one of the most exciting things that we've done, because this is we're trying to put this thing out, we're trying to do it is something that's going to be relatively inexpensively priced, but it's really something. I'm going to give you some priceless information. So basically, this is about the fastest way to get into the business of growing and selling plants, starting out on a really small scale. And you can build a really nice home-based business around this. Nobody even has to know what you're doing, because it's such a small scale, low-key type of operation. So basically, in this DVD or in this video, I want to share with you two basic principles. One, the quickest and easiest way to get roots on a plant, or the simplest way to get roots on a plant. And two, the quickest and easiest way to turn those plants into cash by selling them very quickly without having a great big plant sale, without attracting all kinds of attention to yourself. So you can do this on a very low-key way, and it can be very effective. So basically, I'm going to show you some pretty simple stuff and give you some time frames. But here, over the years, I have taught all kinds of different plant propagation techniques, from grafting and all kinds of crazy ideas, and they all work, and they are all recommended depending on what you are doing. But I'll tell you right now, grafting is probably one of the least popular things that nurserymen do. Most of the nurserymen that I do will not graft. It's a specialty, and they won't be bothered with it if they want to sell grafted plants. And I used to graft, and I don't do it anymore, just because it's kind of a time-consuming thing. It's a winter project, and it's fun, and it's something, if you really have a burning desire to do it, then you can do it. But if you're really looking at it from a business standpoint, you're better off to buy a plant that's already been grafted by somebody who's fully equipped to do that, has a greenhouse, is all set up to do that. And that's what I do, and that's what we do inside of the Backyard Growers Business Center, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute. But that's where you can find you can find any kind of plant, you can find any kind of grafted plant, you can find any kind of weeping Japanese maples, rare Japanese maples. Not all the time, because all of this is seasonal, but when they're available, they're in there, and inside of there you can get all the sources, everybody that I use. So basically, here at the nursery, we use two basic plant propagation techniques. We root cuttings during the summer as softwood cuttings. That means that as soon as the new growth, the plants start to make leaves in April. There's a 6-week time frame from the time the plants leaf out. 6 weeks later, you have about this much new growth, and after that 6 weeks, that new growth starts to harden off just enough that you can clip it and stick it. That new growth roots very quickly, but it's also very tender and needs special care. And I'm going to show you how to do that easily with some specialized equipment that's really it's not that expensive, it's affordable. So that's what we do. Then we also do hardwood cuttings during the winter, where the wood is much harder, and it's very rigid, but it's very durable. It just takes longer to root. So I'm going to take you outside, and I'm going to show you some of both that we have done. Some we've done in the past few weeks, and others we stuck last winter. But they both rooted successfully. So let's take a quick look at that. All right, now these are cuttings that we stuck. It's July 22nd. We started sticking cuttings this year around June 10th, which is about a week late. But then again, you can see I'm getting a little bit wet. About a week late, because it was just a crazy, really hard winter and then a late spring. So basically, we're typically starting cuttings right around the first week of June. So anyway, everything from that far end of the bed right to about here is really all well rooted, and I'm really just hand watering this once a day. So I'll show you. I'm going to pull something out here. This is a variegated white Gilia. So you can see that these are just starting to, we started at that end, so those have been in the longest. And so that stuff is completely rooted and really ready to pot if I wanted to do that. Okay, I'm gonna grab a couple. So anyway, these are the roots on here. I'm gonna take you over there and show you a little closer. But so these are softwood cuttings, and I'll show you how to do a softwood cutting. It's actually very simple. We'll do that over at the table. Basically, I'm going to just grab a cutting here so we have something to work with. All right. All right, let's go over here and take a look at the hardwoods. All right, now what you see in the picture there, that is a bucket of purple sand cherry cuttings. We did those as hardwood cuttings in the dead of winter. We took the cuttings, we just dipped them in a rooting compound, and then we stuck them in that potting bucket full of potting soil. The same with all of these. There's some Linwood Gold Forsythia, there's some Pussy Willow, there's 2 or 3 different kind of willows. Those are grapes back there. There's probably 3 or 4 different kinds of grapes. Here's Golden Curls Willow. That's a corkscrew willow with the twisted branches. And then up there with the variegated leaves, that's dappled willow. This stuff in front, these are some perennials that I picked up from a friend of mine yesterday. I'm going to pot up and we'll sell those in the spring. But all of this stuff in these flats and in these buckets, we did those last winter as hardwood cuttings. Let's move over to the table and we'll take a closer look at all this stuff. All right, now this is a variegated Weigelia. This is green and white variegated leaves, really pretty pink and white flower combination early in the spring, and then it will flower off and on during the summer. It's like I said, the end of July, and I saw some in bloom back there yesterday. So anyway, this cutting has probably been stuck about 4 weeks. So you can see in just 4 weeks time, we got roots on that, and I'll show you the equipment that we use to make that happen in the dead of summer, because this is a softwood cutting, which are very, very, very delicate. Now, this is a softwood cutting. This is a Java Red Weigelia, same family, and this is the kind of cutting that I would take. It's actually a little bit longer than I want, so I'm just going to snip the bottom off, and then I'm going to strip the leaves off the bottom part of this thing. I'll pick these off, and basically that's the cutting that I would stick. So that's all I'm going to do is take the cutting. It's about 4 or 5 inches long. We'll dip it in a rooting compound, and then we just stick it in the sand, and then we have an automated watering system that puts just the right amount of water on these things to keep them alive, but not too wet. So it's an amazing process, and it's a lot of fun, because in a matter of weeks you can have all kinds of cuttings rooted, even if you just want to do a few to fool around at home and give to friends, or if you want to grow them and sell them. It's a crazy fun process. So all right, this is the rooting compound that we use. We use Dip and Grow. This is pretty readily available online. If you just search Dip and Grow, you can find it. Rooting compounds are rooting compounds. It really doesn't matter which one you use. They're not really all the magic. They just enhance your chances of success. So I showed you this bucket of hardwood cuttings, and these we stuck just in potting soil because we're doing them during the winter, and that's pretty much what we had available. I would use either sand or potting soil. We often use a coarse sand for our rooting medium. Now these are a couple of the sand cherries, and you'll see here that now these are the ones that we stuck. I pulled them out of a bucket just like that this morning, but we stuck these in the dead of winter, and you can see the difference in the size of the diameter. And look at that. I mean, that is a beautiful plant, and all we did was took a cutting, which is basically a stick in the dead of winter, and we stuck it in that pail, dipped it in some rooting compound, stuck it in that pail, left it outside. It was 15 below this winter. We were below zero many days this winter. These hardwood cuttings were out there in that cold air exposed, and come spring they leafed out and they started making roots. There's no magic in this. It's all about timing. It's really more about timing than it is technique. But anyway, so let me show you. This is the cutting. This is one of the cuttings that we started with. Now when you're doing hardwood cuttings, every bump on this cutting is a node. It's a leaf node, and then that's where a new bud is going to appear the next year. So when you're doing hardwood cuttings, you want to cut right below a leaf node. So right here, that little bump, that's a leaf node. You want to cut below it, but not into it. So if I were, and when you're doing hardwood cuttings, you can collect a cane from a plant that's this long, 3 or 4 feet long, and cut it into cuttings. That's the advantage of hardwood cuttings. You can't do that when you're doing softwood cuttings, because the deeper you get in the plant, the harder the wood is, and it's just going to take too long to root. So here's a node right there, so I could easily just cut that thing right there, and that would be a perfect size cutting. This is so these hardwood cuttings, that's a winter technique. The difference between softwood and hardwood is just the time of the year. When the plants leaf out in the spring, this actually, let me show you, this is really soft wood. See how soft and pliable that is, because that grew this spring. I could cut this off and stick that as a softwood cutting. This is very rigid and hard, because as the plant gets closer to winter, the plants start to harden off to protect themselves for the coming cold. So that's the difference between softwood and hardwood. It's just timing. If you're doing cuttings the end of July, early August, you're really working like with a semi-hardwood cutting. During that period of time, treat them exactly as you would softwood cuttings. It's just going to take them a little bit longer to root, and you're going to mix your rooting compound a little bit heavier. And the directions are on the back of this bottle, but basically with a softwood cutting, we use this scoop and we mix this at 1 part water, 20 parts water to 1 part rooting compound. If we're doing semi-hardwoods, we'll use like 1 part rooting compound, 10 parts water. And then hardwoods, I think, are 1 to 5, but it depends on the product that you're buying. So I would make sure you just read the label and that way. All right. So I want to talk about how we water these to get them to root the way they do. But first, let me take a quick look over here, because you know my wife and Kathy are potting up. These are those sand cherries that I showed you in the bucket. We have buckets of these things. So they're shaking them out of the bucket, sticking them in these pots, and I'll show you the pot, and then we're fertilizing them with a slow release fertilizer. That's really, really important. You got to use it. You can't go to your garden center and buy fertilizer. It's got to be a slow release fertilizer. Osmocote is the brand that I recommend. This morning I just bought 3 bags of Osmocote Triple 14, but it's important to note that Osmocote Triple 14 is completely daylight and dark difference than the Triple 14 that they sell at your local garden center or farm supply store, because Osmocote Triple 14 will take at least 90 days to release during the summer when it's 70 degrees. If it's colder, it's going to take longer. If you put garden fertilizer on there, it's going to release like that, and it will kill your plants overnight. I promise you that. That much I can guarantee. So that's really, really important. Make sure you understand the difference. Osmocote is a slow release fertilizer. It releases over a 90 to a 120 day period. So, all right, that was important. So now, when we stick these cuttings, we put them in a bed of sand, and I'll show you the sand. I've actually got a ton of sand on my truck right now. This is the horizontal flat top sprayer that we use, and basically this thing hooks to a PVC pipe. The water comes up through here and it hits this little pin, and then it sprays out horizontally and just puts a very light, a small amount of water on your cuttings. But it's not a real atomized mist, because an atomized mist will blow away and your cuttings will dry out and die. So I'm going to take one quick break, because they're going to start this tractor and get those plants out of here. All right, it's a little challenging here today, because while we're shooting this video, we're kind of holding up production. So anyway, this pin comes out. This is a very simple device, but so the pin is that. If you push it all the way down, it turns it off. I pop it up about 1/8 of an inch. It doesn't matter. It's not that critical. If it's popped up, the spray pattern really isn't that adjustable. So it's either spraying or not spraying. So this thing hooks to a PVC pipe, and you put this one sprayer will cover probably at least 3 or 4 foot in the mist bed. I put them about 3 feet apart, so I get some overlap to make sure everything gets watered. Anyway, so we start watering these things at 8 a.m. and then we'll turn this off automatically about an hour before the sun goes down, because you don't want your cuttings wet before the sun goes down. So the whole idea to this concept is to put some water on them, let them dry, almost dry, then put a little bit of water on them. So the duration of water is usually about 10 seconds every 10 minutes. That's the cycle that starts at 8 o'clock in the morning. 10 seconds of water, 10 minutes with no water, 10 seconds of water, 10 minutes with no water. And of course that's adjustable depending on the weather, depending on how much shade you have, depending on where you live. So basically these are the spray nozzles. This is a automatic, it's an electric valve that controls the water flow. The controller tells this valve when to open, when to close. Very simple. This is the controller. here's all the settings here, and then the wires going in here. So basically, we sell this stuff as a kit because it's really hard to find, and people end up with the wrong controller, and then they have all kinds of problems. So we sell all the major components. The only thing you have to go to the hardware store and buy are a few brass fittings and the 3/4 inch PVC pipe, which is really inexpensive. And that kit, you can find it on Mike's Backyard Nursery under the products tab if that interests you. And then this comes with 2 DVDs. This one is all about setting it up. It tells you how to set it up. This one is more about the whole propagation process. So these 2 DVDs come with that system. So basically, that's what we do during the summer, because during the summer months, you have to be applying that water all day long and in the right amount. So this is the ideal system. This is what everybody in the industry uses. So, all right, now let's come in. We'll probably come in here a little bit tighter. I want to talk about the profit aspect of this thing. I got crackers here. I'm going to give these to the donkeys while we talk. So, whoop, so I don't break my neck. So, anyway, here you go, buddy. The whole concept of this is that you can start out with one plant and produce just that one plant. And if you produce 25 of them, you can sell those things as soon as they are rooted. I pulled that. I already took the plants that I showed you in the video over to the potting bench because I didn't want them to dry out. I wanted to get them potted. We'll get them back there and put some water on. But anyway, this is so simple that you can start out with just one plant. And for instance, burning bush is a great example. This is a little burning bush cutting that we rooted last summer. We left it in the mist bed all winter, out in the weather, completely exposed to the elements, out there in the sand. Come spring, we dug it up and potted it, and we put it in this smaller container because burning bush is a little bit slower growing, and I had these containers. So this container is a little small, and I don't really recommend it. I just happen to have a couple thousand, so I'm using them up. But you can sell, as soon as you pull this burning bush out of the sand bed, if it's got a ball of roots on it like I showed you, you can sell it. If it's got a really good root system, somebody's going to give you between 65 cents and $1 for just one of those things. Or you can put it in a small container like this, and then next year you can sell it as a liner, which is short for lining out stock. It will have a better root system. It's going to have some branching, because what's going to happen next spring, this plant, everywhere you see a leaf, this plant's going to get branches. So it'll just literally kind of explode and at least double, if not quadruple in size when it flushes out with new growth in the spring. Once that happens, the plant is worth considerably more money, probably anywhere from $1.50 to $2.50 each. If you keep it another year, it can be easily worth $5 wholesale, if not, easily worth $5 retail. But anyway, my point is, you don't need a full-blown nursery. You don't have to have 100 different kinds of plants. You can start with one plant. It doesn't matter what plant. Burning bush is a great example. Burning bush has always been there's always been a demand for burning bush. Here last year and this year, burning bush on the wholesale market around here have been really in short supply. So if you had 10,000 18-inch burning bush in the field, you could have sold them like that. Now that's not always the case. So, but anyway, burning bush is a good example. This is Tango Weigelia. This flowers with a deep red flower in the spring. Really easy to root. Burning bush is also easy to root. It takes about 6 weeks, and then it just pops with a great big ball of roots. Tango Weigelia is a great plant. It flowers with deep red flowers in the spring. It'll flower a little bit off and on all the way into fall. Grows. So this was a cutting right about here, and then we potted it up and it flushed out, and I can actually take cuttings here right now and get 4 or 5 more cuttings off of the cutting we took last year. That's the beauty of this business. That plant, you could specialize in that plant. In the Backyard Growers Business Center, people are always looking for plants like this. You can sell them on eBay, you can sell them on Craigslist, you can sell them at a farmer's market. You don't have to do it from home. You don't have to have people coming to your house. So here's another. This is an awesome plant. This is called Summer Snowflake by Burnham. This thing will flower off and on all summer. Great seller. But if you can't find this, just pick something else. Don't complicate this, and don't postpone this by thinking, I don't have it, I can't find it, I can't do it. Here's another great item. This is emerald green arborvitae. We potted these things up last year. They've already taken off like crazy. And when I do arborvitae, I usually buy a bigger plant, just rip it apart, and we'll probably do that, you know, early August. Put them in the sand bed and water them just like I showed you with the automatic equipment. They'll root like crazy. And again, with roots, easily 65 cents to $1. 1 year liner, probably $1.50 a piece. So this is a pretty simple business. This is the container that we use. This is the 497 container that we sell. I love this container because these are some containers that I picked up last spring because I couldn't find containers anyway, and then I waited about 8 weeks just to get these. These are a nice size, but they're tall and skinny, and like with the burning bush they're okay, but a lot of other things they tip over easy. That's why I like this container, because it's short and squatty. That's why this is the one that we've opted to sell to our members, because they're hard to find. You can't hardly find these things anywhere. And it took us, I don't know, 6 months probably to finally get a couple pallets of these things. So it's crazy, right? You want to buy containers by the pallet, and you can't even find them. But anyway, so I like this because it's less than a 1 gallon, which means it uses a lot less topsoil, but it's short and squatty, and it doesn't tip over very easily. And then you can see we put this viburnum in there, and it filled it up, and it made a really nice plant. This plant was a really cutting last summer. We potted it up this spring. Just beautiful. And once they fill the container like this, that helps to control weeds. We also use a pre-emergent on top of the containers to help keep the weeds down. The one that I'm using right now is called Snapshot. So anyway, that's, you know, if not, you're going to get weeds in your containers, and you're going to learn to hate this. So. But again, once these things are rooted, you can put them in small pots, sell them as a liner. People will buy them like crazy. That happens every single day inside of our business center. Now, about the business center. The business center is a place that we put together because people asked us to, and people gather, they share notes, they learn you will learn more in a matter of days in that Backyard Growers Business Center than you will anywhere online, because you are learning from people who are out there every single day with their hands in the dirt. I'm there on a regular basis answering questions. We've got people all over the country in every zone imaginable. We have people from different countries. We got Canadians, and there's I know we got a gal from Australia. We had a guy who was in Hong Kong that was on there. So it's a great resource, and all the information is archived, so you can look back over a couple, 3 years, whatever's archived in there. And it's a college education online that you can get in days. You can learn so much stuff in there, all about when to take the cuttings, how to take the cuttings, what to do with them. Any question you have, you can post a question. Sometimes you get an answer within hours or an hour. It just depends on who happens to be online the same time that you're online. So anyway, because that is so specialized, and because it is such a high value membership site, we really kind of keep it under wraps. We don't tell a lot of people about it, and we limit membership. We only allow new members in when we have time to manage them. So I'm not going to guarantee it's open today, but if it's open, we give you an opportunity to take it on a test drive. It's a really inexpensive test drive. Do that. At least take the test drive when you have the opportunity. So if you bought this DVD, then you should, we should notify you. You may have already had the opportunity to get in. We give everybody who buys this DVD, we usually give them one opportunity to get in. If they pass, then they got to wait until the next time we open it up. But anyway, it's a great resource. It's a great place to network with other people who are doing exactly what you want to do. Now, one of the questions that people have is about potting stuff up. So let's take a look at our potting area, and I'll show you exactly how to pot these and so on, so you kind of know exactly what you're doing before you get into this. So we're going to walk over that way. All right, so today Pam and Kathy are potting up these sand cherries. I showed you this bucket of sand cherries earlier. These are the hardwoods that we stuck last winter, and they're all rooted. So what they do is they pull the whole wad out of the bucket at one time, so as not to pull them out and break roots. And then you can easily kind of loosen that around there and separate a single plant. And you can see that's a really, really nice hardwood cutting. And here's how, I'm going to show you, when you pot this thing up, you're going to want to fill that pot about 3/4 of the way with potting soil. Put your cuttings in there, and then I'm going to put a little, but you don't want, see, these are hardwood cuttings so they get stuck kind of deep, but you don't really want to pot them that deep. So right now I have my root, the bottom of my roots right about there laying on that soil. Then I'm just going to put about 1 inch or so of soil over top of that, pack it down so the cutting is nice and firm. Basically that's it. So you don't want to plant them real deep in the container, but you also have to keep in mind that your roots are only this deep right now until they get rooted in, so they'll dry out easily because the top 1.5 to 2 inches of that container is going to dry out first. So after we pot them, we put a scoop of slow release fertilizer on there, and tagging is really, really important so you don't confuse yourself. We have a tag printer. That's something that you don't need right now because it's an investment. So you can handwrite the tags. Just make sure that you handwrite them with a really good permanent marker, and you make a map. If you have a lot of plants, you want a map because permanent markers do fade. You can also put we have aluminum tags that we write on, and that it actually embeds right into and that's what we use in our cutting beds. So no matter what happens, the aluminum is still bossed with the name of the plant. So basically that's it. So these girls are kind of plowing through these things, and we'll get them all potted up, probably finish the sand cherries today, start on the dappled willow. So all right, let's go back and we'll talk a little bit more about selling the stuff that you grow. All right, so we've covered all the basics that you need to know. I think the most important thing that I want you to take away from this is that you don't need 50 different kinds of plants. You can start with 1 or 2 plants. It's important that you know exactly what you are taking cuttings from. You can't just go around the neighborhood and taking cuttings. You have to start taking cuttings from something that is properly labeled. So because there are so many different kinds of plants, there's different kinds of burning bush, there's probably different kinds of sand cherry, there's different kinds of forsythia. All right, if this is a little choppy, we're having problems with this camera shutting off, so as it is with live video, we're going to trudge on. Anyway, proper labeling in the industry is not only, it's required, it's expected. So the ideal thing for you to do is buy 1 stock plant that has been labeled by a professional wholesale grower. You know that's what it is. Take your cuttings off of that. Then you can take cuttings off of those cuttings. But if you start with 1 properly labeled plant, then you know, and you can tell other people that you know exactly what variety you have. You just can't go around your yard or around the neighborhood taking cuttings. You have to have a properly labeled, properly documented plant. So anyway, that's really important. So the next thing about selling them, the ideal thing to do is just to get into the Backyard Growers Business Center when we open it up. You can buy stuff in there that you can grow and sell. I mean, you can buy stuff in there really cheap. You can sell stuff in there, and you can sell a lot of it. I mean, we have people in there that sell thousands and thousands of dollars worth of plants. The beauty of that is you just take the plants, and on Mike's Backyard Nursery, I got a whole page about how to package and ship plants. And the ideal way to know how to do that is to get in the business center and buy some. That way you see firsthand what they look like when they arrive, so you know how to ship plants to people. The other thing is, you've got to have a license. Like any business in just about any state in America, there are requirements, and one of them is you have to have a nursery license so that you are not passing on all kinds of crazy insect disease to other people. So anyway, and we cover that. You should have gotten access to the Backyard Cash Machine, which is a free booklet that we're giving you with this DVD. But anyway, that's a PDF, you can download it, and there's a lot of information. But anyway, the ideal thing is to, as soon as you get the chance, take that trial, because you can get all these questions answered in there. People are really, really good about answering this stuff and answering it quickly. So you can sell plants in there, you can sell plants locally. The most important thing for you to understand is you don't have to have a ton of plants to make your first sale. You don't have to have a big plant sale and people coming and parking all over your neighborhood and attracting a lot of attention. You can simply do this very low-key in your backyard. Root 100 cuttings, sell 100 cuttings. Root 500 cuttings, sell 500 cuttings. You can get, 1 cutting takes up 1 square inch in our propagation boxes. So keep that in mind. table restaurant, the table placemat is probably 12 by 15, so you're going to have at least 150 cuttings in an area that size. So you can do a lot of cuttings in a small area. So I'm not going to go on and on about this. I'm going to encourage you to take the test drive in the business center when we open that up, so that you have an opportunity to really interact, and people in there post pictures of what they're doing and pictures of their plants and so on. So I'm Mike McGroarty, and I hope that I've given you as much information as I possibly can in this short DVD. We have products pages on the website. You know, we have all kinds of resources available to you if you're interested in learning more. So anyway, I'm Mike McGroarty. I wish you the best of success with this, whether you want to do 10 cuttings or 10,000 cuttings. I encourage you to just do it. If you want to use the same propagation equipment as that we're using, just go to Mike's Backyard Nursery and click on the products tab or containers. If you want to get the 497 pots, we have all that stuff there, stuff that's really hard to find elsewhere. So I'm Mike McGroarty, and let's wrap this thing up.